Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Rype. Rype is the future of language learning, bringing you high quality one-on-one language lessons with fully vetted professional teachers around the world. As a member of Rype, you get exclusive one-on-one access to the best teachers for a fraction of the cost of a language school. Plus, the convenience of taking lessons any time of the day, anywhere you are, especially for the hustlers out there. How is this possible? It's because unlike language schools where there's bloated administrative staffs, high retail billing costs, etc., Rype connects you directly with professional teachers online. But what truly makes Rype different is that instead of paying a premium price per each lesson, you can book lessons every single day for a flat monthly price. That's as little as $3 per lesson. The second differentiator is that instead of just relying on paper credentials, every single teacher on Rype is carefully selected through a rigorous hiring process, including a live one-on-one video interview where everything from personality fit, professionality, and teaching style is taken into consideration. And teachers are continuously rated for quality to ensure the best learning experience for its members. And yes, I should note that this is a company that I founded, and it's a problem that I've been personally passionate about solving after spending thousands of dollars on ineffective solutions in the market that just did not work. In fact, I believe in our mission and solution so much that listeners to our podcast can get $50 of free credits by using Sean, that's SEAN, at the checkout, including a 14-day free trial risk-free. Get started today by heading over to rype.net, that's RYPE.net, to get your first 14 days for free, including $50 of free credits today. That's as little as $49 for your first 45 days of language lessons with some of the best language teachers around the world. Hopefully, we can have a chance to meet up sometime in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'd like that, sure.
I know you're working on a book, so you must be super exhausted right now, right?
I'm not exhausted. I'm just sort of hiding from the world until I should. I just get really grumpy,
especially during nap time, right? So I'm gonna try to perk it up as much as possible. So again, thank you so much for coming on to the show, Robert. Really appreciate you making the time. I know the audience probably has heard a lot about you. Most of the people that are listening are freelancers, writers, creatives, entrepreneurs, and you are a major success and someone that we look up to in this world. For the few people that have not heard about you, could you give them maybe a 15 to 20 second intro of what it is that you do, what really wakes you up in the morning that gets you excited?
Well, I've written 5 books. They're all pretty much
major sellers.
My first one was the biggest seller, The 48 Laws of Power. And they all sort of deal with a similar subject, which has to do with power and success and strategizing your way towards it. And my last book was slightly different because I'm looking at the book is called Mastery, and I'm not looking so much at the political, social strategies that go into power and more at the mind and how you develop the brain and how you learn and how you become a great master at what you do. But all the books ultimately have to do with some form of power that you can achieve. And they're all manuals for getting there, very practical, but filled with examples and stories from history to sort of help you get there.
And an insane amount of research and fascinating stories from history, essentially, that you're bringing in. It's not just modern stories. It's amazing the amount of research that you do. And we'll get into that a little bit in the interview. But I'd love to hear the early journeys of your story, because I know you've also got a very fascinating one about how you discovered your passion for writing. And, and then we'll talk a little bit about the topic choices that you decided to start writing about. So how did you first get into writing, and what were some of the chronological milestones or events that led you to become a writer?
Well, I'm a bit of a late bloomer. I mean, I've been writing my whole life. I was writing when I was a kid. I loved books and reading. And probably in high school, I started imagining myself becoming a writer. And then obviously after college, I sort of chose that as a profession, got into journalism. And I didn't really like journalism. It wasn't a good fit for me for various reasons. And so then I sort of took time off and I did a lot of traveling, went all around Europe. I lived in Europe for many years and did many different kinds of jobs. I just can't begin to explain to you the weird different kinds of jobs I had. But during that time I tried to write novels, I tried to write plays, screenplays. I couldn't figure out what it was I wanted to write, the subject, the form. And I came back to Los Angeles. I was probably almost 30 years old. And I thought maybe I'd try Hollywood. And this is where I'm from. And went at that. And I ended up, I don't like Hollywood. In fact, I hate it. I mean, compared to journalism, it was even a worse choice. And so I was I was unsettled. I think I was about 35 years old or so. Just didn't know nothing was quite clicking. And I was in Italy for a job. And I met a man who's a book packager, basically a producer of books.
Interesting.
And he asked me one day, very memorable day for us. We were in Venice, Italy. He asked me if I had an idea for a book. And all of the things I had been living through, because I worked in Hollywood, I worked in places, every place I was at, there were all these power issues.
Sure.
All of the nasty manipulators I had seen in Hollywood, etc. I just had so much material.
Interesting. So power was the first thing that you wrote about, and that really came about because of your experiences in Hollywood and all the nasty things that you've seen while you're living there.
Hollywood would be about a good over half of it, but I've had 50 different jobs since I graduated college, and probably 20 to 30 while in college.
Wow.
So, I worked in a detective agency, I worked for magazines, I was a tour guide, I was a waiter, I taught English, I worked in a hotel. I saw weird power games everywhere. Hollywood was the most overt. But the main point of it was everybody's lived it. Who's ever worked in an office or who's ever had to deal with humans in a group level, you've all had to deal with politics and people's egos and weird games. And the main thing is nobody writes about it. It's like a dirty little secret. People will write about their most extreme sexual perversions, but nobody writes about power, about what really goes on. And all the self-help books out there, they're so unrealistic. They paint as if we were angels, as if it's all about management and getting people on the same page, blah, blah, blah. Come on. If you've ever worked with people, you know that all it takes is one bad person in a group of 10 and they mess up the dynamic, and they're always out there. And so nobody was writing about it. And so I just took advantage of the fact that there was this subject that everyone's interested in, but no one's writing about it. That's the main point.
It's fascinating because you put power into a light where it's really no fluff. This is straight how it works. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I think it really captured people's attention because people want to hear the truth. What do you think so many people are fascinated with this idea of power and having more power, given all the experiences of you researching the top powerful people in the world?
Well, we're in a new age. So part of it is the historical moment we're living through, where more and more people feel empowered. They feel like there's opportunities out there. A lot of it has to do with the internet, but a general process of democratization where the old power centers are kind of crumbling. The game is opened up.
Right.
So more and more people are interested, and more people want control over their destiny. I know my father, for instance, he, God bless his soul, he's a great man, but he worked his whole life at one job for over 40 years. And it was a place where they took care of him. He felt secure. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody feels like your boss really gives a damn about who you are or what you are. You have to fend for yourself.
Sure.
So there's the opportunity to get ahead, to create your own business, to be an entrepreneur. At the same time, it's pretty brutal out there. And I think that there's the lack of honesty about who we are and about the kind of games that people play. Secretly, people are fascinated by it. You watch all the television shows, things like House of Cards or even Game of Thrones or all the others. They're fascinated by it, like kids are fascinated by what's going on in their parents' bedroom at night or whatever, because nobody's really like honest or talking about it. And so I've kind of forgotten what your question was, but which happens in my nap time here. So that, I think you combine, I remember now, you combine the fact that everyone wants it.
Yeah.
And we're fascinated with it, and there are no real gritty books written on the subject. I think that's what made my book successful.
Kind of plays to people's dark side a little bit, which we all have, but people want to be politically correct and they don't want to show it off because it's not, right within society to do so. So I love the fact that you brought that out in people, and it's not even about being greedy, or it's not even about at least from my perspective, about taking control. Sometimes it's about protecting yourself from other people that want to take control of you, which is something that every one of us will have to go through in many points of our lives.
Yes. So, people think of the book as being kind of evil or amoral. It's really not as evil as you think when you get into it.
Yeah.
A lot of it's sort of common. A lot of it is actually quite nice. It's about how to be social, how to, charm people, etc. So there's a whole aspect of that to the book. Sure. But then there's the defensive side, as you point out. So one thing I know, I was working in Hollywood, and something that would really tick me off was I was working for a director whose name I won't mention, and he was doing a screenplay, and he had me write whole portions of the script. And I was, I did a good job. And he liked it, and then it got into the screenplay, and I got no credit for it at all.
Oh, my God. Really?
Well, yeah, and then that happened over and over and over again with this particular person, which is a common story in Hollywood and in media. And then, so I wrote a chapter in the book about it called Get Other People to Do the Work, but Always Take the Credit. But the idea was defensive, was don't let this happen to you. People are out there, they're going to steal your ideas, they're going to make you work, they're going to put your name on it. How do you handle that? Do you get angry? No, you don't want to get angry, because anger has negative consequences. Do you have a lawsuit? No, you don't want to do that, because that could make your career very troubling. So how do you deal with your anger? Well, that's sort of how I talk about it. And so, overtly the law looks nasty and evil, but really it's about how you protect yourself from, I call them the vultures out there. We're just hovering around, waiting to steal your idea, no matter what field you're in.
Yeah, it gave me a realistic perspective. And for anyone that's listening, about really what life is, right? It's not a perfect utopia where everyone wants to help you. And it's just not the way it is. And the sooner you learn it, the more you'll be able to thrive in the world. Now, there's 48 laws, which is a lot of laws that we could go through in the interview. But I wanted to flip the table around and ask you, if you could only master one of the laws out of the 48 laws, which one would you want to master, and why?
It's an impossible question, because I'm a realist, and everybody's life is different. And some people are working at the very bottom of the rung at a Burger King. Other people are working at a hedge fund. It depends on who you're with, who you're dealing with. It depends on your personality. Sure. Law number one is extremely important. If you don't learn law number one, you're going to have the most miserable life. You're never going to get anywhere. People are going to mess with you, and power you'll never have any power. And basically, law number one is never outshine the master. History is littered with the corpses of people who have violated this law. I violated the law several times in my career. You're fired, you're demoted. They never tell you why. You have made the boss, the master, the person above you feel like you might be a little bit better than them. And that's not what they want. They want someone who will just do the job. So how do you handle those situations, like the other law that I talked about? How do you internally handle such moments? Your natural desire is to shine, to impress people, to charm them, to prove yourself. but sometimes you have to step back and mute your colors and not be so brilliant and just do your job when you're starting out. So everyone has this issue in them. We all have a boss, a master, and I would say that's maybe it's law number one, and maybe it's one of the most important. That's my way of wriggling out of answering your question.
Got it. Yeah, it's a tough question, probably impossible especially when you've done so much research and defended each of the laws.
That's right.
So I want to move on to the next book, which is Mastery, which became another bestseller, and it's really about how to find mastery in what you do. You mentioned in one of the chapters the importance of recreating yourself, and from your own personal experience of having to write about power and then mastery and then even seduction, which is, you could say that they're very focused but particularly different topics. What was the process that you went through to recreate yourself?
Okay, that's interesting. Well, Power was the first book. Actually, Seduction was the second book. And the Power book had a lot. Seduction was sort of a sub-theme of it, because I was saying that power in the modern world is not about being aggressive and yelling at people and being brutal. It's about being soft. It's carrying, as Napoleon said, carrying a velvet glove inside an iron fist. No, it's the other way around. I can't remember. Sorry. It's basically, you're tough, but it's with a velvet hand. Nobody feels it. Everybody feels the softness because you're seductive, you're charming, blah, blah, blah. So I was very interested in seduction my whole life. I had a period in my 20s when I was basically a rake. I lived sort of the seducer's life, if you could say. I don't, probably from my 20 to 30 or something, somewhere in that area. And I love the literature and the subject and the whole psychology, not just of a sexual seduction, but of political seduction, marketing seduction, the process of lowering people's natural resistance to you and getting them to do what you want without them ever even realizing it. So I've always been fascinated by it. So I didn't need to recreate myself for that. The next book was about warfare and strategy. It was my attempt at being Sun Tzu, writing my version of the art of war. And a lot of the first book had warfare as a very small sub-theme because of strategy. So for that book, maybe a little bit of recreating. I had to get a little more aggressive. I had to go from the soft seduction to the more kind of book about Napoleon and a little bit more violent. So, I listened to a lot of hip hop. I started playing board games to get my competitive juices going. Hey, a little bit of that. And then I did the book with 50 Cent.
That's right.
And that was a very different kind of thing. And that wasn't so much recreating. It was a recreation in the sense of, I don't necessarily like working with people. I like working by myself. Right. But he was a great guy. And so how did I mesh my personality with someone so very different? How do I do a book together that captures both of our spirits? And that was a difficult assignment. And then Mastery was more not about there's nothing really evil about mastery. It's just about attaining excellence in your field. And it's also a subject that I'm interested in. So really, to answer your question, I have many sides to me, like other people do. And I've been able to appeal to all the different aspects of my personality. For instance, I'm a sports junkie. I love, I love watching sports. I love participating in sports. And the idea of training and getting to a moment where you're so good at what you do that you don't have to think about it. You've got muscle memory. And you're on the field, you're playing football. You don't have to think anymore, and you're on a higher plane where things are just coming to you. I think it was John Elway, maybe it was Troy Aikman, who said, when I got to the point where I was really good, everything slowed down, and I could see the field in a different way. I've always been fascinated with that kind of mastery. So, I suppose if I were to write a book about lingerie, I wouldn't be able to find a side of my personality to write that because I don't have really, I mean, I'm interested, but I'm not interested to write a book.
Sure.
So I have to find something that appeals to me because I got to love what I'm writing about. But fortunately, I have these different sides that I can kind of use.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I imagine it took a lot of searching, but you were passionate about the topics at the end of the day that you could go through the grueling hours of research to go through and put a book together.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's like, it would be like, you have to live with one woman in a small room for 2 years. You better like her. It better be a good match.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're going to start fighting and you're going to get and you can't escape. You can't get out of your room. It's going to be pretty unhappy. So I gotta love it. And fortunately, I've made the good choices so far.
Yeah. It's surprising how many people make the bad choice. It's like 50% divorce rate or something like that, right?
Yeah, right. But even people who write books or do, a lot of it I talk about in Mastery. You produce something. I don't care if it's a podcast or clothes or a book. If you're kind of just doing it because you want the money or because you're told to do it, it's felt in the work that you do. That piece of clothes doesn't look so in. But if you're excited, if you really it comes from somewhere inside, the customer, the audience, they feel it. Because there's an excitement, there's something different about what you've done, about what you've created. It reflects your own individuality, your own weirdness, your own energy, as opposed to just going through the motions. Anyway, I forgot I lost the train of my thought.
No, I love that we can always expand the conversation when we ask the question. So speaking of mastery, what would you say something that you've mastered is like your biggest master, or something at least that you're constantly looking to achieve and attain mastery in?
Well, I mean, I'm not very good at many things. My father was really good with his hands. He could build anything. When I was a kid, I was really into airplane models and stuff, and I was really bad at it. And he'd always have to come in and make it for me. I'm bad with my hands, and I wished I wasn't.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. Okay,
so I'm not good. There's a lot of things I'm not good at. I'm a terrible cook. The only thing I'm good at, if you could say it, is writing, because I've been doing it my whole life. So I'm not going to sit here and now think, well, I'm going to master football or the violin. I'm too old. It's too late. So it's just writing. But what that means is I'm not sitting here fussing over whether I can write anymore past that point. It's the subject itself. So if I'm writing about mastery, I really better know it deep inside so that I can write about it, not in a superficial way, because so many books, the writer doesn't know really what they're talking about. They've not thought enough about what they're writing about, and you can feel it. So I'm writing a book now about human nature, about what it is that makes people tick. Why are some people this way? Why are some people that way? And I have to immerse myself in the field, in the subject. And then everything starts reminding me of it. And I analyze my friends and what they said that night and what their problems are. Everything kind of funnels into what I'm writing. And if I really get to the point where I understand the subject, then I feel like I'm mastering it. And that's the game each time, to feel like you've at least mastered the subject. Like if I have to write about 50 Cent or do a book with him, I better figure out who he is, his spirit, or the same with all the other things that I'm writing about. So that's sort of the puzzle that I'm faced each time I write a book.
Got it. And how did that happen? Speaking of 50 Cent, was that something did 50 Cent reach out to you, or did you reach out to 50 Cent? And what was the process of getting that book deal done together?
Well, he reached out to me. As I said, I'm not really interested in doing books with other people because I like controlling it myself.
Sure.
They reached out to me, and I thought it would be interesting. They wanted to see if there was a book idea together. And I sort of played with the idea, and I thought, well, I think there could be something really interesting, but we have to do it differently. We have to approach this book not as if it's about just a biography about him, but we really, really find a way to write about something together that excites us. So I liked the challenge of it at the time. I write books mostly about dead people, and it gets a little bit lonely. You know, I feel like I know Napoleon really well, but I've never gotten to be able to talk to him. So here was a chance to be with someone alive and analyze him and have interaction. And that would be a nice change, a nice challenge. And he's a great person.
Sure.
He wasn't a control freak. He was going to let me kind of run the show a little bit on some level. So there was a confluence of we both liked each other. We both are into strategy, come from totally different worlds. And it felt like it was the right thing for me to do at the time. So I wasn't like writing about more dead people.
Out of curiosity, I think loneliness is something that people that are listening right now are all dealing with, whether you're an entrepreneur, freelancer, writer, anyone that is out there just doing something different than what normal society is trying to achieve. How do you personally deal with the loneliness factor, when you're writing a book or when you're doing other stuff in your life?
Well, that's a great question. I feel like in all the years I've been answering questions, no one's ever really asked that. So you get a gold star for that.
Thank you.
Usually it's always the same questions. Because it's an important issue, and I talk a little bit about it in Mastery in the sense of if you're not able to be alone, you're going to place a really severe limit on how far you can go in life. Now, there are fields in which being social is enough, and that's all you have, and you don't ever really have to be alone. But if you're an entrepreneur, an inventor, an artist, and a lot of other fields, you need to be able to withdraw from people and get inside your head and step back from all of the noise and think about whatever it is that you're making or the problem that you're solving. So the ability to, I have a quote in the 50th Law from the writer Pascal, that the problem with humans is that they don't know how to sit still in an empty room. If you just knew how to sit still in an empty room, you would figure out all of the problems in your life because you would focus and you have no distraction. So it's very important, particularly with younger people who have lost a little bit of that skill because they always have to be stimulated. It's really important. And I know all of the great people that I write about, interviewed, et cetera, they all know how to be alone. They know how to close the door. Now, the loneliness could come in and it can get a problem with me, like a year of like not socializing very much.
Sure, yeah.
And then I finish a book, and then suddenly I'm socializing like crazy, and then I'm alone again. It's not easy. And it can make you neurotic. But I do a lot of meditating. I took up meditation about 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I do it religiously every morning, and it's really helped me handle the ups and downs. Like I can say, well, you're going to be alone, but I live with my girlfriend, so I'm really not that alone.
Sure.
But it can get kind of cabin feverish. How do I handle it? I calm myself down. I remind myself it's a year isn't that bad. It's going to be fun after that. This is the last big book I'm going to write. There are ways for dealing with it. But the most important thing, and to answer your question, is you have to learn in life how to take that hour each day and really withdraw from people and focus on yourself and focus on the problems that you're dealing with.
Have you ever tried Vipassana, by the way? Like the silent meditation trip?
Well, I know a lot of people who have,
Yeah.
And speak very highly of it. I'm very familiar with the process, and it sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
I happen to chose Zen meditation. I don't know why. I guess for some of my books, I've got very into the subject of Zen because it's a religion. I don't know. I guess it is a religion that focuses heavily on strategy and just appeals to me in a deep way, the realism of it. And so I got into that, and I could change at some point if I get bored or whatever. I could go try Vipassana. I know the week retreats and everything. It sounds really interesting. It's just that this was the one that appealed to me the most at the time. Why do you practice the Vipassana?
I did it 2 years ago, actually,
Yeah.
and it was the most difficult thing that I think I've ever done in my life.
Oh, the silence for the week and all that.
Yeah, and I didn't do
Yeah.
meditation like yourself. You've got 6 years of experience, so this should be a piece of cake for you. But for me, it was really difficult.
I don't know. I think it would be from everybody that I talked about. Everyone kind of goes a little bit psychotic during those few days, like especially the first day. I hear it, no matter where you've been, you could be the Dalai Lama. That first day is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
It is definitely weird when you have like 40-year-old guys that are weeping, in the tents at the middle of the night, and you're like, oh my gosh, should I be crying too? This is so weird.
Yeah, I don't know if I could handle that.
Yeah, well, either way, it could be a great experience. So that's how you handle it. I'm super fascinated by that because I think so many people deal with that. But just like you said, you go through this zone of being with yourself and being zen, being, dealing with the loneliness, but then you have to go across and do these interviews, go on TV.
Yeah.
And you just get it's like a 180 basically, right? And I think everyone goes through this as well. For me personally, I get the jitters when you're antisocial for about a year and you don't even socialize with it, even for a month, right? And then all of a sudden you have to switch to this completely different life where you have to be the social, entertaining person. What is the mindset shift, and what are some of the practices or activities that you may have to get over those obstacles and jitters?
Well, I've been doing this for 17 years since the 48 Laws of Power came out. Interviews, quite a few. And so the world has changed now. I mean, when I first started out, you would do a lot of television and radio, and television, live television. Ooh. That could be kind of, a little bit frightening at first.
Yeah.
Now that world has evaporated. There's not much of it left for pushing a book, unless you're, Hillary Clinton and you have a book and then But for people like myself, there's not much of that. It's mostly the internet, podcasts like yours, which are great, which are fine. So it's like any kind of skill. I go in all of my books, in Mastery, I talk about it in my new book. Being social is a skill. Everything is a skill, really. It comes from practice and immersion in it. So when you're around people a lot, you get easier. It becomes easier and easier. You get more social. You get funnier. You feel more relaxed. When you're away for a year and you suddenly come back, you're going to be a little bit awkward, and I know that. So I don't fight it. I know that first interview or two might be a little bit strange. I might say something that's a little bit awkward. Okay, but after a week, it comes back like riding a bicycle, and you're back through. It depends on who you are. It depends on how social you are. And if you have a kind of an actor, performer mentality, I think I have a little bit of that in me.
Yeah.
I can kind of alter myself quickly. But in the beginning, it was very difficult.
Sure.
And I find for a couple of weeks that I was much more awkward. I guess it's because I'm more experienced now that I don't have that problem as much.
You've gotten some sort of mastery, right?
Of interviews.
Yeah.
I've probably, done over 1,000 of the damn things over the years.
Wow. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done an interview, so you could tell I was a little nervous when I was talking to you.
Oh, really?
In the beginning, yeah. So it's been like a couple of months because I was in LA and doing stuff. So that's why I asked the question, because I totally know what you're going through.
I didn't notice.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I don't know what you're based.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robert, for taking the time to talk to the audience. You had created so much value, sharing everything that you've been through. I'd love to know, to see if you can share a little bit of a sneak peek about your new book and a little bit about, I know you shared a little bit about the human nature side of things, but when it would be out, roughly what year or even what month, if that's what you want to reveal.
Right now, I feel like it'll be out in 2030, but hopefully before then. It should be out if I really get my act together. I finish it by the end of the year. Blah blah blah. 60. If I'm really work hard, maybe 2017.
2017.
I'm hoping that's the best case scenario. And basically, Mastery had a chapter about social intelligence, and the idea was you could be really good at programming, at creating an app, or whatever it is. But if you're not good with people, you're going to kind of neutralize all of your talent and all of your knowledge. We're a social animal, so mastery involves also being good with people, even if that's not something that you're naturally gifted for. So as a chapter on that, and a chapter on how you make a social intelligence, think of it as a skill, and how something what we were talking about. And people responded very positively to that chapter, but they said that they wanted more. And it's a subject that fascinates me. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm starting with the premise that there's something called human nature that was set thousands of years ago. We're animals. We have a physiology, a biology that was set way before we were civilized. We have certain patterns that just never change. And I want to discuss them with you, the reader. These 24, there might be less, kind of timeless elements about people, so that you can understand the people you deal with on a better level and you can handle them better. So, there's a chapter on narcissism and why we are all narcissists and how you handle narcissists. A chapter on irrationality and the fact that we are not rational animals. We're in fact highly emotional and highly irrational, and how you be honest with yourself about that. A chapter on nonverbal communication, because from that animal, I'm kind of looking at it almost as if I'm a zoologist studying a zebra.
Interesting.
We have nonverbal communication, our hand gestures, which I tend to do a lot of. Everything, all our nonverbals are extremely eloquent. A chapter on that, et cetera, et cetera. I'm doing a chapter now on the nature of desire and why we humans always want what we don't have, the whole grass is greener syndrome. So these are things that were written about in the Bible that go back to earliest times, and they're not any different. They may look different with the internet, but they're not different. The aggression is a little more indirect. The envy is still all over Facebook. It's the same stuff. And I'm going to get you to understand the human animal on a higher level. That's sort of the ambition that I've given myself, or the goal.
That's fascinating. I think there's a much more likely chance I'll read your book than the entire Bible. So I can't wait to...
hopefully it won't be as long.
Yeah, hopefully not. And more fascinating, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make this worthwhile to you. I know you're in the process of being extremely creative with how to create as much value for the audience. Is there maybe any specific questions that you've been pondering on that you may want to ask our audience? And maybe this could help in developing the book idea, just getting some feedback from the audience.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard because I do listen very deeply to people. I like hearing their stories.
Sure.
If people have any kind of story about somebody really difficult that they had to deal with, I'm particularly interested in stories in which people surprised you by their behavior. So, for instance, you take on a partner for your business if you're in that position. Somebody that seemed charming and wonderful. And then a year down the road, wow, man, I had no idea this guy or this woman was such a snake. And then they really mess with me and I'm suffering. It could be on any level. It doesn't have to be a business partner. It can be romantic, etc. But the idea of I misjudged this person, and now in retrospect, I could see I could have foreseen this. I love stories like that are gold for me, because that's sort of the idea of the book, is that you don't really know the people you're dealing with. You think you do. Even your girlfriend or wife or husband that you've been with for 30, 40 years, you don't really know them as well as you think you do. And they're going to surprise you. And I want to make it so maybe they won't surprise you as much. Those are the stories. If anybody has them, they can be long, and you send them to... we have two websites. We have the powerseductionandwar.com, the and war spelled out, and the mastery website, which the first one will send you to. And you can send me those emails. They come to me eventually if you have a story like that. That would be the main thing. I don't have any little tiny specific questions because it's too difficult to think of that.
Yeah.
Is it the opposite way as well? Could it be a good surprise where you thought someone was nasty or evil and you were surprised by how awesome they were? Or are you looking for more of the kind of the dark surprises?
Well, that's a good question. How often does that happen?
That's right.
It does happen. It does.
Right.
And it's true. A lot of people that you think are bad are not as bad as you think if you got to know them. You know, people think that that I'm some evil Machiavellian genius, and they meet me and they realize I'm a pussycat.
You're super down to earth. You're super down to earth. That was really amazing too.
So those are pleasant surprises on the road of life. That's not really my cup of tea. I want the stories because I'm trying to help you with your problems.
Yeah. So
I guess the only lesson there is that you can't judge a book by its cover, and people you think are bad maybe aren't so bad. So that's an interesting thing, and if there's a follow-up to that, I could be interested. I wrote the chapter I just finished is about character, and the idea is that people have a part of them that is so deep from their earliest years, from even their genetics, that they can't control it. It kind of defines you in a way that's below the level of consciousness. And it makes you repeat certain ways of doing things, certain ways of thinking, and it gives your life a pattern. And if someone's character has been revealed to you suddenly where they're not as bad as you thought in some action, I could find that interesting, but I'm more interested in the other.
Got it. Well, whatever comes our way, we'll definitely make sure to send that to you.
Okay.
Anything of great value that would be
useful
for the book. So amazing. Thank you so much, Robert, for being on the show. We'll have all the show notes that we mentioned on the website for people to see. And if anyone has any questions, we'll also make sure to link your sites up. So if people have any inputs, they can just email that to you right away. Thank you so much, Robert.
Oh, you're very welcome, Sean. Very welcome. Thank you.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Rype. Rype is the future of language learning, bringing you high-quality, one-on-one language lessons with fully vetted professional teachers around the world. As a member of Rype, you get exclusive one-on-one access to the best teachers for a fraction of the cost of a language school. Plus, the convenience of taking lessons any time of the day, anywhere you are, especially for the hustlers out there. How is this possible? It's because unlike language schools where there's bloated administrative staffs, high retail billing costs, etc., Rype connects you directly with professional teachers online. But what truly makes Rype different is that instead of paying a premium price per each lesson, you can book lessons every single day for a flat monthly price. That's as little as $3 per lesson. The second differentiator is that instead of just relying on paper credentials, every single teacher on Rype is carefully selected through a rigorous hiring process, including a live one-on-one video interview where everything from personality fit, professionality, and teaching style is taken into consideration. And teachers are continuously rated for quality to ensure the best learning experience for its members. And yes, I should note that this is a company that I founded, and it's a problem that I've been personally passionate about solving after spending thousands of dollars on ineffective solutions in the market that just did not work. In fact, I believe in our mission and solution so much that listeners to our podcast can get $50 of free credits by using Sean, that's SEAN, at the checkout, including a 14-day free trial risk-free. Get started today by heading over to rype.net, that's RYPE.net, to get your first 14 days for free, including $50 of free credits today. That's as little as $49 for your first 45 days of language lessons with some of the best language